What's cracking everyone, Titanic Llama here, and just as I've done with the previous worlds, I plan on explaining just what I was focusing on and my milestones that I had whilst I was progressing through World 4. So without further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? Alright, so as soon as I hit World 4, I had one thing in mind, and that was to complete all of the intro quests for World 4. Not just to avoid time gating myself, but as I described in the World 4 video, all of the skills introduced in this world are fairly time gated systems, and cooking, which gives the largest amount of bonuses, is heavily reliant on breeding. So I really wanted to get these going as soon as I could. I wanted to focus on breeding to begin with to unlock as many territories as I could, and also to get some stronger foraging pets so I could start the spice production that I would need. A decent boomerang frog and a squirrel will carry you decently to begin with and unlock the first few spices, which I wanted to do so I could start unlocking more meals. As part of the intro quest, you will unlock turkey, so to begin with I just had that set to cook while I focused on a few other things. Turkey is a nice bonus to begin with regardless, as it boosts total damage, which is going to be needed as the World 4 mobs, as you would expect, are a big jump up in difficulty from the World 3 mobs, requiring a lot more accuracy, defense and damage to effectively farm. With that done, I decided that World 4 was where I was going to personally ditch my Amarok armor and craft Dimentia armor, which really isn't too difficult to craft these days, and it is a big step up in the armor provided and also the number of upgrade slots that it has, which is important as more stone slots will equal more accuracy and more defense. Amarok armor will still cut the mustard, but Dimentia armor is just better if you can swing it. Something to note about the armor stones from World 4 and World 5 is they act a little bit differently to the stones from previous worlds, as these are the first stones that are not randomized. These stones will give you main stat for the class that you are using them on. This means if you stone your armor or weapons on a mage class, it will gain wisdom, along with defense or weapon power depending on the stone that you're using. And this is exactly what I chose to do. As I mentioned in the World 4 video, I pushed through this world on a squire who quickly became a DK, so stoning my armor with a mage directly increased my accuracy, and the Dimentia armor gave me a huge boost to my defense. As far as elite classes go, I initially focused on getting my DK and my ES. The DK I wanted purely to help push through World 4, and the ES was to help fuel my refinery, as I don't want to waste 3D printer slots on mob material. And the ES is fantastic for farming those because of its portal ability, which spawns extra mobs as well as increases general mob respawn while it's active. As for the rest of the elite classes, I didn't really worry about unlocking them straight away. I eventually unlocked the BB and the BM once I felt like cooking and breeding needed the boost provided by those classes, and about halfway through World 4 I unlocked my Bubo to help push further into the lab, with my goal here being to reach the Killer Brightside boost. Up until that point though, I still had all of my other characters out of the lab focusing on other things, like farming cards on certain resources to help increase my prints, along with the Sheepy and Neptune cards, which give defense and accuracy respectively. I also farmed up some statues here and there, certainly not to start the Onyx grind, that's still quite a ways off, but I did want to farm up some thick and bullseye statues to again help increase my defense and accuracy a little bit. I used the Troppy logs in World 2 for the thick statues, and Nuttos in World 1 for the accuracy statues. I was also continuing to push my alchemy when and where I could. By this point in the game, leveling up bubbles will slow right down. For instance, my FMJ and Chakracy bubbles were really starting to take a while, but they were still something that I was focusing hard on. It was around this time that I was starting to use the bargain tag to get levels in these bubbles, which is something that I haven't covered in the guide yet. So the bargain tag is from the second tab in alchemy, which can be bought with water to reduce the material cost of bubbles. Once you purchase a bubble, this will reset and you will have to purchase it again, and this can really chew through liquid quickly, so I was aiming to buy 3 bargain tags each time to reduce the cost of a bubble by just over 50% when I was leveling up my FNJ and Chakracy bubbles. Other than that, I was mainly focusing on bubbles that would increase my skilling efficiency or tool power, again to feed into bigger prints to help keep up with the increased cost of stamps and bubbles. Also, by this point in the game, I had unlocked the 11th bubble in each cauldron, which are all damage percent bonuses, and they all stack with each other. Also, as a lot of people have been asking, I'll quickly go over what levels some of my more important bubbles were around the mid to end point of World 4. My wisdom and strength bubbles were sitting around 65 to 70, my chakracy bubble was level 40, and my FMJ was 35. My warrior's rule bubble was high level 30s, almost level 40, and those 11th bubbles that I just mentioned being Britley Spears, Bojack, and Maddie Stafford were all level 20. Circling back to cooking, as soon as I unlocked the egg meal, I focused on that one pretty solidly as it boosts meal cooking speed, which just means that any meal that I wanted to cook thereafter would be a bit faster. On average, I pushed most new meals that I unlocked to around level 5 until I switched back to turkeys for more damage until I unlocked the cabbage meal. This meal is one of the biggest early boosts to your cooking speed, as the way that this one works is it will give you more cooking speed based on how many times you have leveled up your kitchens, which by the time you've unlocked this meal, you should have quite a few levels in these. One pro tip here is to not spend the salts that you get from the beach docks on leveling up your kitchens, as we will need all of these to level up one of the yellow bubbles that you will eventually unlock. This bubble is called Diamond Chef and is the second major cooking speed multiplier. As far as breeding goes, I really only had two main goals here, the first of which was to unlock the carrot from World 1 and the mimic from World 2, as these would help me push further into the arena and unlock more territories, and the second was to continue to breed better snakes and squirrels to push my spice production along nicely. The squirrels are just basic filler for the territories, but the snakes on the other hand will give you a big boost to your spice production speed if there is another snake directly below the one in the territory above. There's a couple more notable things I feel like I should mention, and one of those is that I got lucky with the chip shop and the accuracy chip came into rotation, which I could purchase, so I threw my DK into the lab for a day to get him up to level 5, which allowed me to equip one chip on him. Also, this may not be feasible for everyone because of the chip rotation, but I felt like I should mention it anyway, as focusing on chips is something that you really shouldn't worry about until much later in the game, but hey, if one comes up that you can buy, then you should. I already had more than enough accuracy while pushing through World 4 to not have to rely on this chip, but as soon as I hit World 5, this did really come in handy. The other big thing that I took advantage of is as soon as I hit level 120 on my DK, I brought 2 tenacity rings from the dungeon shop, which are really strong rings for this point in the game, and a big reason why you don't want to sleep on the dungeon, especially if you're online when there's a happy hour going on. These rings, and of course the stat bonuses from the Flurbo shop, which I had maxed out my defense and accuracy boosts in there too. Once I hit the Chocos map, I unlocked my Bubo, threw all of my characters into the lab and lit up the Killer Brightside bonus. And then much like World 3, I grabbed all of my candies and pushed through the rest of World 4 knowing that the boss would be killable as soon as I got to the map, and getting to World 5 as quickly as possible was a big goal, as I wanted to unlock the skills from that world, as they provide some really strong bonuses that would help me catch up all of the characters that I had been neglecting. Also, with World 5 being the last world available for now, it meant that I could relax on pushing through the game and more focus on everything else. And that is everything that I can think of that I did to push through World 4. One big tip that I can give you is to try and make a daily checklist for yourself so you don't forget to check or collect certain things. Things like checking your traps daily, using your alchemy liquid, even if it's not on a bonus that I've outlined, just to use the liquid, as any increase to alchemy is an increase to your account overall, and it's better than just sitting there at max liquid with it going to waste. Attempting to unlock vials and bubbles, collecting your anvil items, and maybe even resampling once a week or so are just some of the ones that I can come up with off the top of my head, but I encourage you to look at where you're at within Idleon and try and come up with your own list, as it will help familiarize yourself with all of the skills and give you a much better sense of what to do and when. But with that being said, I've been Titanic Llama, you've been watching a video, and I'm out. Peace.